Okie dokie. We are live, but gonna let it breathe just for a moment here, gang. Y'all know the drill. Super stoked to talk with you on a Sunday, August the 6th. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, we're running late tonight. Sunday's usually the night. If we're going to be late, we're going to be the latest. So apologies, guys. Thank you for your patience. We love you. We appreciate you. But um, lots to get to. I want to talk about some of the storylines coming out of camp, and just you and I kind of share some of our, here's where we're at, takeaways, so to
Yep.
speak, on the first, we'll say, 10 practices of training camp. But first thing I want to get your take on, though, is this Josh Jacobs thing being thrown back into the mix. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. We know that Jacobs has been disgruntled with the whole franchise tag thing with the Raiders. The Raiders seem somewhat disinterested in committing to Jacobs. Linking the Broncos and the Chiefs, what are your thoughts on this, and where do you think it might go?
I kind of feel like it's negotiation 101 on Josh Jacobs' part. You're taking leverage that he gained from Sean Payton's comments leading up to the Super Bowl, I think it was, or right after Sean Payton got the job. He gushed about Josh Jacobs and said, maybe we'll recruit him to Denver, or hopefully he'll get out of the AFC West because he is a Broncos killer. I don't know how, Chad, you look at Javonte Williams' recovery, you look how pleased you are with Samaje Perine, and you say to yourself, okay, let's go out and let's pay Josh Jacobs big running back money at a time when no running back is getting paid that. So I think he's using the Broncos as leverage. As nice it would be to have a three-headed backfield of Jacobs, Pookie, and Perine, it's not all that feasible, I think, in reality.
He wants that payday, dude. I
Yeah.
love Josh Jacobs. I mean, I really do. I think he's, of all the running backs, Zach, that have been potentially linked to the Broncos since Sean Payton arrived this offseason, he's one that excites me the most. But with Javonte Williams seemingly, like, I'll just say, near miraculous recovery from a multi ligament tear in his knee, I'm just not sure you need to go break the bank on Josh Jacobs. And then what do you do with Pookie? At the same time, though, Zach, if you look back on Sean Payton's tenure with the New Orleans Saints, for large chunks of that time he was there, that running back stable was always just chock full of badasses. I mean, dating all the way back, Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas. Then all of a sudden you throw in Darren Sproles. You get into more of the later era, Sean Payton. And still, I mean, you've got Mark Ingram, 41. I just had the brain fart. Come on now.
Kamara?
Alvin Kamara. I mean, seriously, um, he likes to roll a little bit heavy. He likes to be deep with the
He does.
playmakers at running back, which is why it wouldn't shock me ultimately if he did something. But hey, you got Pookie coming back. You got Samaje Perine you threw a few dollars at.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is one of those things I don't really expect it to happen.
And you have Jaleel McLaughlin, who's looked really, really solid in camp, catching passes, running the ball, looking like the running back three. You brought Tony Jones in, who's familiar with Peyton from New Orleans. You're talking about the Saints' history. I don't think it's a dire need. I mean, it was all resting on Pookie, Chad. When the Dalvin Cook topics came up throughout the offseason, we had the same answer. Let's see how Pookie looks. Will he be ready for week one? Is he going on PUP or IR? If the answer to those questions was no, then they don't need another running back. And the answer was no. Again, as tempting as Jacobs or Cook would be, the Broncos are in really good hands, literally and figuratively, at running back.
David and Troy jumped in early with super chats before we went live. Thank you guys. David, hold your thoughts for a second. We're going to get to you, but Troy is on this subject, so we're going to grab him here. Thank you for the super, Troy. He says, hey guys, if the offense keeps improving slowly, I'll be very happy with camp. I can't believe Jacobs' price within the division would be low enough for it to make sense. Have a great show. Yeah, so then you got to get into the whole tag and trade area of compensation, unless, and this was something that Florio kind of flirted around in his article, the Raiders decide to just rescind the franchise tag, which they could do because he has not signed it yet.
Yeah, that was the whole scenario. They would have to rescind the tag because let's be real, the Raiders aren't trading Josh Jacobs within the division. Just like when Broncos fans and country wanted Austin Eckler, it was never going to happen because he was never traded within the division. So if they took away his tag, maybe the Broncos would make a call and say, listen, what are you looking for, Josh? What's your ballpark? And if it's 10, 12, $13 million a year, they're going to have to say thanks, but no thanks. We're fine with who we have.
Indeed. David, brother, appreciate the Papa Bear, as he is known in his neck of the woods, checking in with us tonight. He says, good evening, Broncos country, Chad, Zach, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Hashtag 12 and 5, hashtag Buckham ×3 with a B YouTube. MHH for life, Denver Broncos for life. Thank you, big dog. So great to see you tonight. Looking forward to your observations in the chat. Okay, so we have gotten through basically the rumor mill buzz, and anything on that topic, guys, you want us to get to, put it in the chat. We'll keep a close eye on it. Before we segue into some of the other things we want to talk about tonight, let's grab Mike here, who is he's probably our leading ambassador of the MHH community on Facebook, but he's also everywhere. He's Facebook. I mean, that's where he first crossed our path, right? That's where the name Ronk first came to be noteworthy in MHH canon. But this is a prolific cat on Twitter. This is a prolific cat on YouTube. And speaking of prolific, Mike, we love you, big dog. Speaking of prolific, oh my gosh, Michaela. She has put herself in the 200 club many times. Many times. This is not the first time. But every time it happens, Zach, believe it or not, under this hat just a few seconds ago was a full, luscious head of hair. And then I saw this super chat, and look now.
Gone.
I mean, gonzo. Michaela, seriously, before I read that super chat, Zach, is there any reason we deserve such a great member of our community and such a great friend?
No, we are absolutely 1,000% blessed. We talk about it every podcast, and I wish some of y'all could see the box below where Scott is, because when you sent that in, Michaela, he literally did this for Michaela Bomb because it's that prolific, and we definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We have hand signals, just like NFL teams. Certain things, this is how we communicate in real time when we're live.
We're getting one right now too.
Yes.
Scott saying hi.
But yes, Scott's giving you his best as well. Michaela, love you so much. Seriously, really helping us keep the lights on. She says, much love to you, Chad, Zach, and Scott, and all of the MHH family. I do think, she says, one of the running backs will get hurt during the season. So I'm not opposed to the idea of signing a veteran running back. I'm not opposed to it either. I just wonder, like, hey, where does the scratch come from? What's the cost? I mean, if I could just go like snap my fingers and find out that Josh Jacobs is now magically a Broncos running back, I'd be stoked. I would be way more thrilled, Zach, about the prospect of that than, say, Dalvin Cook, who has been very much linked to the Broncos all offseason. Michaela getting some love from the community, some props, and some really cool to see. But let's also not forget that he is, for what it's worth, Josh Jacobs, the reigning NFL rushing champion. So that's not nothing.
He kills the Broncos. I mean, Broncos fans are familiar with Jacobs because he just decimates the team every year. He's a really good 3-down player. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He's good in pass pro. I mean, you're understanding why he's holding out for more money, and he deserves it. I just don't think that money is coming from Denver. But again, imagine the power in your backfield when you have Jacobs and Pookie and Pirine. That's just constant body shots for 60 minutes, running the ball 40 times a game. How do you stop that?
Man, I tell you what, though, if you take the 2 Bronco games out of his stats from last season, Josh Jacobs, like, not even in the top 5 of the NFL rushers. That's how prolific he's been, dude. Close enough. But Phil, brother, down in Tucson, proving Broncos country is not a geographic location; it's a state of being. He says, "Good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. I would save my money on a running back," says Phil, "and spend it on either line. So offensive line, defensive line. Hashtag Buckham Go Broncos." I hear you, dude. I hear you. The offensive line, Zach, has had some mixed reviews since training camp started. But I don't get too caught up in that. I don't get too hung up on how the O line is looking in camp, specifically because um, even though Zach, they tried to kind of create a facsimile of what the season's going to be like through the different team drills, individual, all that stuff. It's still a facsimile. It's
Mhm.
not the real thing, right? And so I'll wait. I got to wait to see it in some real game action. Plus, you've got two new moving pieces, right? Two new parts to this pieces, I should say, to this puzzle. So I'm not tripping on that too hard, but depth still is a little bit of a concern for me on the O line. D line, I would like one more veteran. If that's
Yeah.
Shelby, killer. I mean, he put a painting up the other day on I think it was yesterday on Twitter slash X, whatever you want to call it, of some Rocky Mountains, which many people wondered, was that a hint of something that might be coming, Zach?
Man, I agree every point here, Chad. I would want the Broncos to invest a little more on the D line. I do want the Broncos to pick up a capable guard. My boy Yasir Durant was waived by the Broncos yesterday, so he didn't last very long. And I would just be happy, like, again, another Cameron Fleming type move where you have a veteran who has experience to kind of coach up the young guys and provide some depth there. But I agree with the ultimate point. Running back, as I said with Dalvin Cook, a running back like Jacobs would be a luxury, not a necessity. And at this point, the Broncos should be focused on necessities.
Chris, what's going on, dude? So good to see you tonight. Been a minute since I've seen you on a super chat anyway. Great to see you and really appreciate the support, my friend. He says the first Bronco preseason game is this Friday. Can't wait to see our new Sith Lord, Sean Payton, in action. What do you think about our game versus Arizona? Hashtag best in the business. Hashtag Lord Vader. Love it, dude. You know I love the Star Wars mixed stuff, the nerdery when it comes to Broncos. But I don't think. I mean, obviously, no one's game planning for a preseason game. Um, so when you ask, what do you think about our game versus Arizona? I'm the number one thing I'm curious to see is how much Peyton plays the starters. Right, he's vowed that they're going to play in the preseason. He confirmed again on Saturday that starters will play, including Russell Wilson. So once we kind of see what that is, I mean, Zach, we could talk about a lot of different things we're going to be watching for in that first preseason game. But what's your answer for Chris?
Yeah, I'm not breaking down anything like schematically, offense versus defense, Broncos versus Cardinals. I mean by that, but like Broncos, like within their own team, I'm looking to see, like you said, how much the starters play, how the backups look when they get their playing time. And here's my number one priority for all the preseason games: no injuries. And I'm saying that while knocking wood. I want the Broncos to emerge as healthy as they are going in. I know it's not 100% after TP and Jonas Griffith, but just look decent on offense, get some chemistry going. You mentioned the offensive line, Chad, and that's the only way they are going to get that continuity down, that chemistry down, is if you play in real live game action. So I'm looking forward to that. But most importantly, just go out there and get out unscathed.
We'll keep talking. I mean, all week long, guys, we're going to be talking about what to watch for in this preseason game, including tonight. We'll talk more about it. The GLP in the house. Gary Palmer, what's up, bro? A legendary mythical figure is now in our midst.
Thank
Everybody
you,
knows
Gary.
this man's importance to MHH canon, and I just got to tell you, he goes hard. I've seen this with my own eyes, all right, in the flesh. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, Dylan, and Scott. Thanks for all the articles and information. The hype video is dope, by the way. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Yeah, we try to update that once a year because shows, I mean, we're pretty consistent in terms of the personnel here at MHH, but as we expand, sometimes we contract this and that. Some shows come, some shows go. So we like to update the channel trailer. And yes, for those of you who missed it, we dropped that earlier today, the updated 2023. So glad you saw it, Gary, and glad that it passes, that it's up to snuff, let's say.
Thank you as always, Gary. Always good to see you in the chat, and you're luckily for us always in the chat.
Jasmine jumping in as well. Love it when the ladies of MHH show out, and they basically, more often than not, they are leading the charge when it comes to our super chat family. So, Jasmine,
Welcome
great
back,
to see you.
Jasmine.
Yes, she says, "Hey Broncos fam, long time, but glad to be back. Football season is around the corner." One of the things, Zach, that I love about July and August, beyond the obvious, right? Football, the Broncos, it's kind of things are happening again. Is because of that, people that kind of put the podcast off to the side, it's like, how many times can I tune into Jensen and Kelberman talk about, what to expect in September, and it's June or whatever. I get it. Trust me, because I'm a podcast listener myself. I totally get it. Then it's great to see the faces come back. And Jasmine, of course, you're one of them. Near and dear.
Yeah.
Love you. Appreciate you.
Hope you're as excited as we are for the Broncos season, Jasmine.
Dave Bristol jumping in with a super chat. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Welcome. Appreciate. He says, I think the Broncos have greater needs than running back. Spend that money on O-line, D-line, starters, or depth. Too old for hashtags. Love the show. Hey, you know what? My dad tells me I'm too old to wear hats like this, like with the, I don't know, what do you call it? I guess this is a trucker hat, but like the wide brim type thing. Like, trust, I'm never going to be a guy that does this. I'm 43 years old. I'm not going to do this. Okay. I will sometimes do this, like I don't do it on the show. But like when I'm out and about, yeah, I'll wear it backwards because I am 43, but I don't feel 43. And I sure as heck don't think, 43. So I don't know. I think maybe that's like the punk rocker in me a little bit or something, but I'm never going to grow up in that sense. So fart jokes, I still laugh. I still do. Sorry.
Age ain't nothing but a feeling, baby. It's how old you feel. Sometimes you feel 43, sometimes you feel 13.
That's right. That's right. Dave, great to see you. Appreciate you, my friend. All right. Zach, I fact checked myself real quick. All right. Amidst all of our great conversations tonight. When I say that if you remove the 2 Bronco games from Josh Jacobs' 2022 resume, would he have been in the top 5? Because he's the reigning rushing champ, right? So, first meeting with the Broncos, 144 yards. Second meeting, 109. All right, so we'll just call it. We'll just say 250. All right, so if you take 250 off of this total from, so 250. Yeah, he would have been like, he still would have been barely top 5. He still would have been barely top 5. But it went like this for what it's worth. Josh Jacobs, 1,653 yards. Derrick Henry, 1,538. Nick Chubb, 1,525. Saquon, 1,312. Miles Sanders, 1,269. So if you have a chance to get the reigning NFL rushing champ, Zach, and he is 25 years old, he's still young, bro. I mean, there's a lot of there's many rows left to hoe with this cat.
I just wonder, I mean, similar to Dalvin, what do you do with Javonte in that case? Are you admitting that he's going to be in a timeshare for the duration of his Broncos career? What do you do with Samaje? I mean, do you admit that he's just an RB3 and he was a fail-safe signing? Do you look to trade him in that situation? I mean, it raises more questions than answers. Of course, we would like to have Josh Jacobs. We would like to have Justin Jefferson too, Chad, or Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, but we don't. We can't get everyone, and the Broncos have to go to war with who they have.
That reminded me of a line from Wedding Crashers, but I'm not gonna quote it. Trivia question. You ready, Zach?
Let's go.
How many 1,000-yard rushers were in the NFL last year?
7.
Ooh, way off. Scott, what's your guess? 6? Come on. 16, y'all.
16?
16,000-yard rushers.
Shows you how easy it is to get it.
So yeah, it either shows you, Zach, that it's easy to get it. I guess maybe the way I'll put it is, turns out maybe running backs are more important to how the sausage gets made in the NFL than NFL GMs would maybe want running backs agents to believe.
But the thing with fortunately for them, they have 2 running backs who can easily be 1,000-yard guys on their own. So again, having Josh Jacobs would be amazing, and it would keep him away from Kansas City and Vegas for that matter. But it's just not all that realistic. I'd be really surprised.
All right. This is a question that segues back into what I want to get to. So with that being said, he's also from the land of Oz. By that, I mean Australia. And in his case, specifically Perth, which is in Western Australia. I've never been to the land of Oz. I got to tell you, I hope someday I'm able to make it. Although I would absolutely dread the flight because I hate flying. I do have flight phobia, but it's not something that that I can't overcome. All right. It doesn't keep me from doing anything. I hate being on planes, can't wait till it lands, etc. Some people can like kick back and snooze and stuff, and I try to, but I
I
can't.
never can fall asleep on a plane.
If you anesthetize me, sure. Or I should say if I anesthetize myself, but I try not to do that. Dude, that sounds like a nightmare. Being in a plane, it's like 14, 15, 16 hours from the States to Australia or something like that. So maybe someday. But anyway, Nigel, thank you for being with us. Appreciate your question on Facebook. Do you take more, pardon me, more from training camp or more from the 3 preseason games is what he's asking. What's more meaningful to you? Obviously, both play a part here, but what's the most meaningful?
Both. Kind of a cop-out answer, but each, training camp is different because you have 9-on-7, 7-on-7s, you have one-on-ones, you have different kind of drills that you can run to give you a micro view of your talent. But preseason games, it's mano a mano, team versus team. You're getting a very macro view. It just depends on certain situations, like the offensive line, for example. I feel like they're better in a game, even a preseason game, because you have to get those live reps. You have to get the continuity down. It's just practice that you're not going to get in Dove Valley. You're going to get on the real gridiron. So they're both important, but we shouldn't rush to judgment either way. I mean, so many, Chad, are making a huge deal about a few picks that Russ threw to Simmons in the first couple camp practices. And surprisingly, he had a really good practice yesterday. Russ had a big 50-yard touchdown to Jerry Jeudy to walk it off. Twitter X was surprisingly quiet. It's funny how that works, but we have to just stay even keeled and analyze each camp or each practice or each game on their own merits.
Yeah, I think that to just be a little bit more specific for Nigel, both are like Zach said, both are very crucial to the big picture. But when it comes to like how position battles resolve and come together, preseason ends up being kind of the, we'll call it finishing school or whatever, right? That's like if training camp is, you're going to class for a full semester or whatever, preseason, the games themselves are the tests. So they're both equally important. But I appreciate the question, my friend. We have Zeus McPeak checking in. Great to see you tonight. Stu, the first face etched in the MHH Mount Rushmore. I will never stop saying that because it's factually true. Love you, big dog. He says, hi, all. How's our offensive installation going? Really good question. And the answer is it's going. It's, giveth and taketh, ebbs and flows, all that stuff. But it seems like, now we'll wait to see what happens on Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday's the next chance we'll get to see what they're doing. But I'm really not jumping to any conclusions on, even if Zach had started this training camp like on a tear from day one, like, whoa, duck to water, like this was the scheme he's always been, like born to play in or whatever, I wouldn't be jumping to too many conclusions. And it works the other way too, less than ideal start. And by that, people really trip when a quarterback throws picks, whether it's in a game or in training camp. But Peyton Manning threw a lot of picks in practice, especially in training camp, because he utilized those opportunities to test the limits of not only himself, test the limits of his teammates, the scheme, all that stuff, different play calls. And it always came out in the wash well for him by the time he got to the regular season. The flip side to that coin, Zach, let's not forget, Case Keenum purportedly threw 0 interceptions in 2018 training camp. How many games did Vance Joseph win in his swan song season? 7? Something like that. So, like, I don't trip on that. I want him to – do I want him to throw picks? Well, no, not in a perfect world, but I do want him to test the limits, push the envelope, figure out how it's going to work for him. And Sean Payton, everything I've heard him say about Russ so far, like I feel like he's basically at the – he's on the pace that I think his coach wants him to be. To quote Sean, I'm pleased with where Russ is at.
I echo everything you said 1,000,000,000%, especially with keeping things in perspective. Remember around this time last year when the Broncos had the joint practice with the Cowboys and the preseason game? Yeah. They dominated Dallas. Their offense looked great. The whole team looked great. Well, how'd that go for Hackett? How'd that go for the Broncos? What was the end result? There is no direct correlation, I feel, between training camp stats and regular season success or failure. That's the whole point of practice, is to get better. You mentioned Peyton Manning used to throw a bunch of picks in camp. So did Patrick Mahomes his first season as a full-time starter. There were reports coming out like he was getting just, trolled by KC's defense. Well, he turned into quite the quarterback. It's the whole point of practice is to get better. And I think Russ will get better with time, as evidenced by his practice yesterday and the aforementioned touchdown to Jerry Jeudy.
Seth, what's up, dude? Seth Harmon in the house with a very generous super chat. Thank you, big dog. Great to see you. I guess it's a super sticker probably, right, Scott? No, it's a chat itself. Okay, cool. Love it, dude. Thank you, Seth. This is a good point that Scott brings up in our control room. If Russ had started off the training camp period, Zach, like on a tear, what would Broncos fans and a lot of Broncos, I'll put it this way. What would mostly Broncos media be saying? Oh, man, did they screw up hiring Vance Joseph? Because this is like they're cutting like a hot knife through butter here. So it just goes to show you that when it comes to the NFL, you can't win in those respects. Like nothing is ever going to be perfect. Every storyline has its implications and this and that people will draw Zach literally to the extreme. And so for now, don't trip. Let them utilize training camp for what it is, to fully learn and install the scheme that they've been studying all offseason for 3-4 months, whatever it is. And then preseason games, you start to see a little bit more, what it's going to look like come the regular season. But it's still not the full picture. You still just have to hurry up and wait.
I just think the reason why narratives are so quickly, cemented in camp from any team, any fan base, is that we're so desperate for football. There's nothing, and then they just start practicing every day, and you're quick to latch on at your first emotional response. But fortunately, great to see you, Cooper, Michaela. Fortunately, we have fans like David Youngkin, who realize in training camp that's where you want Russ to throw those picks. That's where you want Russ to fall down so he gets back up stronger, better, and more successful as a quarterback. I 100% agree with you, David.
Very true. Again, you want him to test the limits of the scheme, his understanding of the scheme, his understanding of coverages, And also one thing you got to keep in mind is it might be cold comfort to people who are like really rocking back and forth in the corner over, Twitter not reporting that Russ is looking like Drew Brees in his prime with Peyton. What just happened? My chat just went weird, dude. StreamYard's going crazy on me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought on that, but you can't worry about that. You can't trip on that. Like, just let them utilize. This is what I was going to say. Let them utilize training camp for what it is. It's meant to finish the process and get them up to speed. Like, don't panic until you have a reason to. And for now, if you are one of those that's like really rising and falling, Zach, with anything that's being reported about Russell Wilson on Twitter, well, then at least take some comfort in the fact that he had a really good practice on Saturday. Really good practice. So we'll see, what the word is, how he looks on Tuesday, but that's good.
And so many players are in and out of practice. I mean, his starting offensive line wasn't even together until this past week because Mike McGlinchey was out of town for a personal matter. I mean, it's the infantile stages of your football season, and you're going to make mistakes, and there's going to be hiccups during that stage. It's part of the process.
It is. It is. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to grab this from Zebulon. I want to know how long it takes to get from the Alpha Orion quadrant to our sector of the Milky Way. But when you do make it, Zebulon, whether it's light speed, warp speed, whatever it is, we just are stoked that you make it into the chat. Appreciate you. He says, does the running back fall off at 27 years old or 30 nowadays? And isn't Ezekiel Elliott, only like 28? I'm way out on Jacobs personally. So he's like, nah, I don't want Jacobs. The answer to this is it's not so much, age itself does play a role, but it's more about, like in the case of Josh Jacobs. All right. Yeah, he's only 25. How many career touches does this cat have, though, at 25? Exactly. That's the question. And here's your answer. I'll tell you how many touches he's got in 4 full seasons in the league. He's got, Zach, 1,072 carries and 160 receptions. So he's, basically over about 1,200 touches since he entered the league. So he's flirting around 300 touches per season. That means that even though he's 25, you probably want to look at him more like he's 27 in terms of when you're looking at like projecting how long can you expect him to play at a prime level, etc. That's how I would kind of view it. But at the same time, everybody's different because everybody has a different genetics. Some people, one of the biggest things I've noticed, Zach, about getting old, all right, and old in age, because if you would have asked the 19-year-old version of Chad Jensen about being 43, I'd have been like, dude, that's older than my dad is right now. I can't even imagine that. That is old. I don't feel old, but I am old. One of the things that I've noticed about getting old, and Zach, I noticed the pendulum. This pendulum began to swing, and about your age right now, about where you're at age-wise, I started noticing it is.
Awesome.
You tweak your ankle playing basketball at the church with the dudes. You're out golfing 9 holes or whatever. Wake up the next morning, your back is sore. Well, guess what? Instead of that back soreness being gone tomorrow when you wake up, it's going to linger 3 or 4 days. It takes you longer to recover from things. And so you start kind of slowing. But that really is, I think, Zach, based on every individual human being's genetics, how well they take care of themselves. They're all those different things that factor in. But this is a good point. Like, as far as like Jacobs, considering the number of touches, Zach, maybe better to view him somewhere like 27, 28-year-old type of guy. So like as a contract, maybe 2-3 year deal if you were to sign him.
Yeah, I really overall agree with everything you said. I feel like the 30-year-old, the age thing is a very, I don't know, popular kind of casual take for running backs that most people know, but you have to break it down on a case by case basis. If you have a running back who's 28 and he has 2,000 touches, but you have a running back who's 32 and has 1,000 touches, well, there might be more tread on those tires. It's about mileage. It's about each individual running back and how many carries like they had, like Chad was talking about. I was thinking of Royce Freeman, though, Chad, coming out of Oregon. He was when he was drafted, 23, 22, but he had like a billion touches at Oregon, so there wasn't much tread left on those tires, and that's why he broke down relatively fast. It's all about each running back's situation.
And this is very much a, oh my goodness, realization here that Mr. Producer dug up. Of the top 25 rushers in the NFL last season, Zach, there are only 2. Am I reading this right? That are older than 27. So they're all 27 and younger. So if you're the Broncos and you have a chance to Derek Henry, Aaron Jones, 28 years old. Everybody else 27 or younger. Jacobs 25. So if you were George Payton and you actually had the chance to sign this dude, it's kind of like a Melvin Gordon-ish type deal from a couple years back where it's like, hey, 2 years, good money in those 2 years. And then maybe it's a 3-year deal, but that third year is like a team option or something, because the numbers are pretty clear on that. Only 2 rushers that were in the top 25 older than 27 in the NFL last year.
Again, though, I think it's fair to point out for anyone who just tuned in, this is all assuming that Vegas rescinds Jacobs' franchise tag and allows him to sign anywhere. Because if they don't do that, he's not coming to Denver. I was thinking, though, in that unlikely event they do rescind the tag, Jacobs might just give a little FU to Vegas and sign with the Broncos on a 1-year deal. Guaranteed money up front, gets to stick it to Vegas twice a year, and test the open market next year, maybe cash in on a multi-year deal. But we'll see how it shakes out.
That we shall. We've got Michael Davis jumping in. Great to see you, Michael. Thank you for the super chat, my brother. He says, priests, we're going to exercise some serious demons in week 5 versus the Jets. That's for sure. It'll be my 7-year-old's first Bronco game. Is MHH rethinking or planning to go? So as far as the like an official meet and greet, the answer to that question is no. But I can promise you that by the time we get to week 5, Michael, there are going to be members of staff that are at that game, tailgating probably here and there. So just kind of keep in touch on that front, and we'll circle back. But yeah, week 5, it's going to be dope. In case you guys missed it, Nathaniel Hackett last week broke his silence regarding Sean Payton just slamming him. Yes, and I will say it, Zach. Okay, nuking him from orbit. All right. He said, "Here's the paraphrase. Uh, we live in a glass house. Coaches do. We live by a code. I was disappointed to hear what was said. Honestly, it didn't surprise me. The only thing that surprised me was that I didn't expect to hear this until week 5, but we're hearing it now. So da 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 da. So that was the general takeaways for Nathaniel Hackett. But that came, Zach, of course, on the heels of Aaron Rodgers getting a little salty about it. Keep my coach's name out of your mouth, talking about Sean Payton. And then also Billy Turner. Yes, he had the 2 different stints with the Broncos, calling Sean Payton an F word bum. So there's going to be some emotions just based on what's been said, let alone, Zach, what actually happened last year on Nathaniel Hackett's watch. So week 5 will be lit.
Who? Billy Turner? Never heard of her. Yeah, the rivalry will be insane. That game will be crazy. I can't wait for it. A lot of Jets fans talking crap in my mentions already. It's only going to increase on both sides leading up to that game. But, Michael, what's going to be even greater is week 7, the Broncos hosting the Green Bay Packers. That game we will be at for the MHH meet and greet October 22nd. Shame you can't make it, but hopefully sometime in the future.
And, guys, the reason we're doing it in October, usually the tradition, we keep it in late September. So we keep it in that first 3 weeks or so of the season. We wanted to make it as probable for as many of our staffers to show up and, big time community members as possible. And October 22nd is just where the stars aligned on that. So even if I'm not there, Michael, I'll tell you this, for week 5, if I'm not there in person, trust that we'll be there with you in spirit, watching every single second of how it unfolds, both before, during, and after. Trust.
Absolutely. Hope you enjoy the game with your kiddo, though, Michael.
Yes, that'll be a memorable experience, no doubt. Okay, Zach, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. A couple of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 something questions. All right. Yeah, first things first. You have a Broncos fan that is on Mars. All right. And you're the only possible conduit for them to know what's going on. They don't have Twitter. They have nothing. All right. And you send them a missive. What is the biggest thing for them to take away from what you've seen through 10 training camp practices?
Honestly, I've been more impressed with how the defense has jumped off the page under VJ. I was a little worried there'd be lag transitioning from Evero to VJ. What's he going to get out of the team, the players? And so far, they've heeded the call. Sean Payton, even Joe Lombardi a few months back complimented what VJ's done so far with the D. They've been aggressive, Chad. The pass rush, that's something that really screamed out to me. It's not been Randy Gregory or Baron Browning, obviously, who's sidelined right now, but Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito, PJ Mustipher has looked good as well. You've had a lot of pass rush from the outside, from the inside. So I think the defense getting at it and being aggressive, taking the ball away with Simmons. Damari Mathis looks like, if there's such a thing, a shutdown number 2 cornerback, super sticky opposite Patrick Surtain. So the defense really overall has jumped out. And also, it's just a different vibe with Coach Payton. It's just a different training camp atmosphere, different than what it was under VJ for sure, different than what it was under Vic. Damn sure different than what it was under Nathaniel Hackett, but it just feels more official and what the Broncos needed.
Yeah, indeed. Give me 2 or 3 guys on offense that have impressed you or that have made you turn your head a little bit that maybe you weren't really expecting to catch your attention?
Well, Jerry Jeudy, number 1. I mean, he's just, if you watch the few videos that leak out of North Korea, Dove Valley, you see the route running ability, the shake and bake. He is so impressive to watch. Jaleel McLaughlin, I mean, I guess we thought he would be something, but as an undrafted rookie coming in and catching the ball, moving it well, ripping off big chunk gains, I think those are your 2 on offense. Also, I had it on, so I'm looking at it right now. Jarrett Stidham, backup quarterback. I wasn't sure what he would look like, Chad. I mean, we didn't know much. He was a backup in Vegas, and he had one start last year. Sean Payton handpicked him out of the crowd on the open market for a reason. And with the second team, Jarrett Stidham has looked really good. He is what he is. He's not overly impressive, not a world beater, but just he knows his responsibility, and he can execute the play calls when they're called.
On the defensive side of things, I got to tell you something, guys. If you were in any way worried about the Broncos' decision to kind of swap Draymond Jones with Zach Allen, stop being worried about it. My name's Rufus. He's the Trufus. All right. Zach Allen is legit. Like, I think he's going to be one of those guys that, is going to go on to have the type of season here in Denver where people who are in Arizona or covered him in any way, or just the NFL at large media are going to go, yo, where was this in Arizona? Like, I think he's going to give the Broncos, not to say he wasn't good in Arizona, he was, but I think he's going to end up being actually great for the Broncos. Like, he's just turning a corner. All things considered, his experiences leading up to this 4 years in the league, how that coalesces, you get smarter, you get bigger, you get stronger, you get wiser. And then his apprenticeship under the great J.J. Watt. Now the stars are aligning. He's in a new place. He's re-energized. I just think Broncos fans should buckle up to some big, big things from Zach Allen. But who else has maybe impressed you on defense, Zach?
First of all, I showed you on Twitter. Some of y'all might have seen it as well. Draymond Jones, if you're wondering how he's doing in Seattle, all I tweeted was Zach Allen greater than sign Draymond Jones. I said what I said. He took the time to quote tweet me. He looked up his own name and responded to the tweet and said, I'm living rent free and my Bronco heart is obsessing over him or whatever. So between his attitude, Chad, and the way he thinks of himself as this Aaron Donald light, I really am happy the Broncos went with Zach Allen. Simmons has been probably the player of training camp. I've been knocking him for the last couple of years of not being the best safety in the NFL, but he's making play after play after play on the ball. Cooper and Benito I talked about. Jaquan McMillian at cornerback. He looks like Damari Mathis light. I was very high on him when the Broncos picked him up last year as a UDFA. And who else did I have? I had Benito, Cooper. Yeah, that's pretty much it that I can think of.
Trickle thinks McMillian's going to be the backup nickel, which
hopefully
you go, oh, backup nickel. Yay, let's write home about that. But it's actually quite the development because once you get past the top three guys, there's zero resolution as to who's going to hold down what role. And fighting for that specific spot includes the rookie who is injured for the next 3 weeks still, Riley Moss, but also Isang Bassi. And, there's a lot of guys striving to be that. And it's going to be an important position, Zach, because K'Wan Williams, much as I like him, he kind of has a tendency to get nicked up. And you need a good guy that can come in and help in the nickel and also when you go dime. But Alonzo, bro, thank you for the super chat, big dog. He says, I can't wait till week 1. Let's ride. Hashtag Buckham. Let's ride indeed. Although Russ has dispensed with Broncos country, let's ride. And he's kind of, Zach, defaulted back to one of his old longtime slogans when he was in Seattle. He'd end every press conference with Go Hawks. Now it seems he's ending everything with Go Broncos, which I think is significantly less cringe. And even on a game, or let's say it's a Sunday night, he's at the podium. Broncos came up short against opponent X, whatever. You can, with credibility, end that press conference, even in defeat with, Go Broncos. Implication being, we'll get them next time, or, on to Cincinnati, whatever, or the next game, as opposed to finding a way, in most cases, very ham-fistedly to fit in Broncos country, let's ride. So, there's that.
I don't know. If I'm Russell Wilson, if I take down Kansas City, let's say, if I have my press conference, I'm looking right into that camera and I'm saying, Broncos country, let's ride, baby. I mean, he needs that vindication, Chad. I hope he gets it at some point this year.
He will. He's going to. There's going to be a lot of people eating crow, and it's going to be fun to see. There's the chance that yours truly is the person eating crow on the fact that I expect other people to eat crow on Russ. I'm telling you, Russell Wilson with Sean Payton, it's going to be a completely different animal. And that I would say something, Zach, to to the effect of like 35 or 40% of Broncos country who are very down on Russ, very dismissive, very negative. They're going to be singing a different tune come even middle of October. Savage Boy Kev, though, on Twitch. I'm going to grab two of your things. This one, though, I want to answer for you. He says, you guys should get the subscribe button for Twitch. Twitch is a weird thing, dude. Here's the deal. I have a life to lead. Zach has a life to lead. We have big, massive followings on Facebook, YouTube, our Twitter, our site itself. And to really make hay on Twitch, you got to live there, dude. You basically have to, like, everything you do is with the eye in mind of growing your Twitch. And we just don't, it's not a monetizable avenue for us. So we don't put that much time into it. I would guess, Kev, that we don't even qualify for a subscribe button. You have to qualify for all that stuff. So we've met a bunch of the different markers, but like, because we don't invest in more of our like creative focus and programming and just energies on Twitch, we kind of are in a stasis there. I appreciate that you're watching on Twitch. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to slam Twitch, but it's not our bread and butter. Now, with that being said, he wants to know, have you guys noticed Patrick Surtain ranked lower than Sauce Gardner in the NFL top 100 players of 2023? That is so crazy. How do you explain that, Zach?
I explain it by having the New York bias, the media market bias in their favor. It's just the way they're sold to the casual NFL fan, the Jets. Even before they got Aaron Rodgers, I mean, Sauce, they made a big deal about his draft night appearance, for example, his name even. I mean, he just had this mystical aura about him when he enters the NFL, and I feel like that swayed people more than his snap by snap play. If you watched PS2 play last year, you watched Sauce play last year, you know that PS2 is the better cornerback. He's more technical. He doesn't rely on holding like Sauce does. I mean, he's just overall a better player. Those who know, but those who don't know make stupid takes.
Well said. Tanner, what's going on, brother? Great to see you. A long-time Super Chat superstar here at MHH, checking in with his DT profile pic on YouTube, honoring hashtag RIPDT. Love that, bro. He says, what's up, fellas? Just showing some love. Hashtag state of being. Broncos for life. And buck 'em. Yes, indeed. Let's get buck wild with this buck 'em thing, dude. And make more t-shirts or something. I don't know. But I do love how Buckham, Zach, has taken on a life of its own. Thanks to, we got to give props to the guy who created this phrase, Sean Payton. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Coach. Yeah, and it was pretty touching. Tanner has the picture of DT. The other night, DeMarcus Ware sang the national anthem, I think it was, in memory of DT. So
yes,
he's missed every day, and that was very touching on Ware's part.
Dude, your boy can sing like an angel from on high.
Yeah.
So props to D Ware, and of course, big congrats making it into the Hall of Fame. Keith, what's up, dude? Great to see you on Facebook tonight, bro. He says, question, where do you rank the Russell Wilson, Sean Payton, duo, pardon me, among quarterback coach pairings currently in the NFL? Man, I'd have to really give some thought to that one, bro. That's a hard one to just kind of come off the cuff with. But let's throw a few of them out there that are noteworthy, right? Like, I'll throw one out. I think Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, they are top of the pile right now. Are we talking only head coach, or are we talking QB paired with offensive guy? In our case, it's a head coach. Like in New York, it's Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett. You wouldn't exactly pair him with Robert Saleh. So I don't know if you have a more already nuanced answer for Keith, but I would actually have to really write this out and come up with something.
Yeah, I think Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts is one.
Yeah.
I think you can say Sean McDermott and Josh Allen is another one. I mean, pretty much it seems like every big-name quarterback makes their coach better by default. So pick a big-name quarterback and just add the coach to it. But I want to reserve judgment, and I would have to, as Chad said, also kind of break down the list. But I want to see when the games start counting for real, when the bullets start flying, how they look together. Then I'll rank them in the NFL.
Did you, and I'm going to admit first that I have not yet, did you watch DeMarcus Ware's Hall of Fame speech?
I haven't. No, I saw the anthem, though.
I'm going to go back and watch it because, first of all, anytime you do get a chance to listen to DeMarcus Ware speak, it's usually an edifying experience. I mean, the dude just oozes wisdom, not just football wisdom, but life in general.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Mike. We'll go back and we'll check it out, and we will definitely report back. Eric Weber jumping in. What's up, buddy? On Facebook, he says, "Evening Priest in Broncos country. I'm liking the recent reports." And by the way, guys, we're at 50 minutes, so we're about out of here. So if you have any burning topics, get them in the chat. But he says, "I'm liking the recent reports that Russ is getting the ball out quicker with consistent completions and that the offense is starting to click. Go Broncos." Yeah, and that's something too, Zach, that we talked about this last week. But sure enough, of course, Sean Payton talked on Saturday. It might have been Friday's practice, but even though Russ's big day was Saturday, I think what I'm about to tell you came on Friday. Either way, it doesn't matter. But last week, he's like asked about how Russ seems to be doing better with, his dropbacks, getting rid of the ball quicker. He's going through his progressions better, this and that, compared to the beginning of training camp. And Sean Payton, to paraphrase him, was like, yeah, that's what we do is, you go out on day one and you practice. All right. Then that film gets studied with amongst the coaches and players that night. And then we come back, and out of that study, there are certain points of emphasis that are made, certain things that are coached in, certain things that are coached out. And then you circle back the next day, rinse, repeat, to where you take what's this kind of big, loosey-goosey kind of situation with a quarterback and offense, pick the position or the unit, and you narrow it down and you sharpen it to a razor's edge. That's what the process is. And that's why when a quarterback, even a veteran, Zach, in his 12th season in a new scheme, isn't looking like, Peyton Manning circa 2013 on day one of training camp, you don't go crazy knee jerking. You need those teeth. You need your teeth to eat food. All right. So don't knock them out of your face, knee jerking, etc.
Yeah, very well said. And something I want to repeat from I think it was Monday show or Thursday show. What is a interception in practice now could be a long completion or a touchdown pass in November. I mean, this is the point of seeing what works, what doesn't work, seeing what play call jibes with the entire offense the best in terms of like getting in the huddle, getting out of the huddle, and getting up to the line, knowing the calls, the protections. It's a lot. He's learning a brand new offense, Russ is. It's a very complex offense under Sean Payton, and not all the starters have been together yet up until this past week. So let it keep playing out, trust the process, and we'll see some, hopefully some gains starting this Friday.
It looks like we may have a veteran of the United States Marine Corps in our midst. Steve Hale jumping in with a very generous super chat. Thank you, Steve. He says, Semper Fi and loving the show from Oklahoma. What's it going to take, Zach, to get Randy Gradishar in the DatGum Hall of Fame?
First of all, I want to say, Steve, thank you for your service. Definitely appreciate that. As always, Chad and I like to recognize that always when possible. A lot of prayers, a lot of positive thoughts, and a lot of maybe some gentle nudging, maybe some gentle bribing of the Hall of Fame committee, because there is that Broncos bias, and it started to loosen up a little bit. The dam has been weakened in recent years with Mr. B and Terrell Davis getting in. Randy Gradishar is as qualified as anyone, though I just don't think a lot of casual fans know his name. He doesn't have the same lore as other players do, but he deserves it 100%. I hope he gets in.
What's it going to take? I'll tell you what it's going to take. It's going to take a grassroots, cannot be denied groundswell emanating from Broncos country that infects the voters, that can't be denied. And one of the problems here that, and Zach touched on this, is that this isn't a guy that current fans, NFL watchers, viewers, and some of the voters have any memory of ever watching play. This is a player from the 70s, very early 80s. He's in such, in that respect, ancient NFL history that it's easy to look past him, dismiss him. But I think it can be overcome with a little bit of luck from the football gods. Broncos country, like being incessant about it, and really, you can figure out who the voters are, and hitting them on Twitter, doing things like bringing attention, bringing awareness. That's a word that like people like to throw around a lot nowadays. but bringing awareness to the name of Randy Gradishar. And we strive to do that at MHH. I mean, do we talk about him every show? No. Do we write about him a lot? Yes. Is he a subject of shows often? Yes. Thomas Hall in particular has done, I mean, Yauman's work, Zach, on just breaking down the Hall of Fame resumes and worthiness of many a Bronco, none more so, though, than, of course, Randy Gradishar. So this could be the year. He's in the running right now. We shall see. Could happen. Keeping my fingers crossed, but just keep being vocal about it on your social media. That's the best thing like every individual can do is talk about it on your social media.
Yes, just like Chad said, raise awareness, keep pounding those drums publicly, make yourself loud, and hopefully this is the year that he gets in. He deserves it more than most other candidates.
Scott, the last one, right? And then we're outie. Fade Wolf Gaming in the house. What's up, dude? He says, what's up, Priest and Broncos country? So stoked for the season to start. I got a really good feeling about this season. Hashtag MHH for life. Denver Broncos for life. Buck 'em. So Zach, Faded Wolf, he's hooked on a feeling.
Yeah, me too. And
Me too.
I'm excited for this season. Faded, I'm right there with you. And I still have that good feeling regardless of the injuries and the interceptions, how the practice is going, Sean Payton's war of words with Hackett. I'm still unchanged in my prediction for the Broncos. 10-7 finish, wild card berth, back to relevancy, back to competitiveness, back to the NFL map where they've been lost from for 7 years.
Indeed. Guys, we're going to dip on out of here, but before we do, we have a few messages for you. You don't want to miss it. Stick around for a second.
Thank you all for another great installment of the MHH podcast. If you're not doing so, follow us on Twitter at the MHH pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter if you would like at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch, Buckham merch, anything that we have to offer, check out mhhmerch.com and I promise you'll find something you'll like. Also, give us a follow or a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle and an Apple Podcast. Make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, 3 crucial steps here you can follow for us guys and gals. Subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Amen to that. Shout out to these great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight. David McElrath, the Duchess herself, Michaela Parker, Troy, Chris, Chances, Gary Leach Palmer, Jasmine, Dave, Zeus, Seth Harmon, Michael Davis, Alonzo, Tanner, Steve, Faded, Wolf, and then, of course, on Facebook, Throwing Down, Phil McLaughlin, Mike, a.k.a. Ronk, and Eric Weber. Much love and respect, guys. Can't wait to talk with you again tomorrow night. Have a great Sunday evening and a great start to your week tomorrow morning, Monday.
That's right. We'll see y'all tomorrow night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.